let's get into it. Strap in, people. It's going to be a bit of a morning, I imagine. And I have to apologise first, and I have to apologise to Leah and the team because I was meant to be at the press conference that Benjamin Doyle held in the Rainbow Room at Parliament yesterday afternoon at 3:30. I was all set to go, literally, and something in my personal life came up, not an emergency, but I had an obligation that I hadn't been aware of that I had to, and it doesn't matter what it is, I couldn't make it. I couldn't make it because I was busy living my authentic life. I have, however, watched it several times, many times, to analyse what went on there, and I've been talking to people about that media conference yesterday. Just to lay out how this unfolded, the Green Party, which put out a media notification, which of course they didn't send to us, but I've got enough context to know it was happening. There was going to be a press conference at 3:30 that Benjamin Doyle would hold. So because that notification came from the Green Party, that means it was Green Party approved. There was also the suggestion he might make a personal statement to the House at 2 o'clock or at the beginning of the day's business. He did not. That did not come through, and that was only a rumour. And I have to say, like many others, I presumed we might get a resignation yesterday. But oh no, Benjamin Doyle, and could I just make it clear, I'm going to call him a him. And he can call himself a they, them, but it's so much easier to use the English language as it was intended and to stick with the biological reality that Benjamin Doyle is a guy. So I'm not disappearing you, and I'm not assaulting you, and I'm not being violent to you. I'm just using common sense. So Benjamin Doyle, for the editorial purposes of the platform, is him. And I know our news bulletins, which I don't make, might call him them, they. I just think that's horribly confusing, to be honest. So Benjamin Doyle fronts in the Rainbow Room at Parliament, flanked not by the leaders of the Green Party, not by Maraba Davidson and Chloe Schwabrick. Behind him, standing most prominently, is a guy who is and I'm not going to use names here because I don't want to kind of dox them, a guy who works at Victoria University and is a Indigenous health academic, done a lot of work in AIDS and Indigenous Maori health and stuff. That was the tall guy with the glasses on the left. And on his right, the woman with purple hair, well, she is a senior executive at a charity called Inside Out. And my honestly held opinion on Inside Out, it is a radical transactivist charity which has insidiously got itself into our education system, and I talk from first-hand experience, seeks to recruit kids to be trans in our schools. That's what Inside Out is all about. So he was flanked not by his political bosses, but by two people involved in, well, I don't know what they were doing there, but they were. I know that Ricardo Mendes March, Green MP, was in the room, and they had a Green Party media minder at the conference. But the two people you see most prominently, if you've watched it on the news, the woman with the purple hair, she's from Inside Out. And I must admit, Inside Out gets most of its money from the government if you look at its charitable status, or one way or another through the government. And Inside Out are pretty radical, a pretty radical group that tries to get, and has been inside our education system for a few years now, trying to get kids to be queer and trans. And the other guy, Maori health researcher, Indigenous health AIDS researcher, and I think associate professor of health at Victoria University. So that's the players who were there. And of course, the Associated News media of the press gallery, sans me, who was busy living my authentic life. Well, if you have expected an apology or a mea culpa or an admission of wrongdoing or a resignation from Benjamin Doyle, you would have been sorely disappointed. And I will say this for the man. I think when you're under that much political pressure and scrutiny, it takes a certain amount of intestinal fortitude to front up. And I know if he hadn't fronted up, we'd say he was running for cover or whatever. So I will hat tip to Benjamin Doyle for at least having the chutzpah and the cojones to hold a media conference yesterday. He did this because Winston Peters on Monday came on this program and said he believed he should be investigated by the police due to several social media posts he made prior to entering Parliament, which have remained up, particularly on an Instagram account. Mr. Doyle came in and claimed he had been the victim of violent criticism. Well, I just want to point out, firstly, there's been no violence. And he said numerous death threats. One death threat is being investigated by the police after being referred to them by Parliamentary Services. So let's just get our terminology right. There's only one Benjamin Doyle, he's not a they, and there's only one death threat being investigated by the police. But he basically said, I'm not going to be disappeared, I'm going to live my authentic life. And then the press conference moved on to questions and other things. So we're gonna pick it up, and Josh, just stay with me. We're gonna listen to what he says, and then Sean, is there really a rainbow room at the Beehive? You're pulling our legs. No, Jono, it's been there, I think, since 2019, and it's all rainbowy stuff. It's all rainbow. As Corey says, is Luxon coming on today? I don't think so, unless we get a call. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go through various bits of the press conference or the media conference, and I will give my analysis. You can comment, you can text in, you can ring in on 0800 33 2283. Hit it.
Do you believe you've done anything wrong, Benjamin?
No, I don't.
Do you believe there was anything problematic about any of the posts that you made on your social media, and why have you deleted so many of them?
In the context of that old account, my personal account, and the posts that you're talking about, they were made in reference to me, about me and my life, and they have been taken wildly out of context and manipulated.
Okay, let's just start there. So first thing, I have done nothing wrong. Then why on earth are you holding a press conference? Nothing to see here. I have done nothing wrong. Absolutely no admission of wrongdoing. I don't know if you've read any books on narcissists, but, and then those posts, they were about me and they were private. Well, if they were private, my friend, why did you put them on social media? Unless you had your Instagram account locked down to the point where no one else could access it or see it, they weren't private. And the context was they were on social media. No one has taken anything you have done and put it out of context, Mr. Doyle. The repostings of the posts which were publicly available were always there, and that is why the Green Party suggested you should take them down before you became an MP, something you have admitted you did not do. None of these things have been manipulated. I have seen no evidence that the photographs or the words you associated with the photographs have been in any way altered or manipulated by the people who have simply reposted them.
I think it was inappropriate to have a picture of a child accompanied by that word.
The context of that series of images is about me, a reference to me and my nickname or my persona, and the various many things that go on in my life, like a screenshot of the different things that are happening for me at that time. When it's taken out of context and manipulated by bad faith actors to look a certain way, that's what's going to happen.
I guess
a lot of people take issue with the words bussy galore. What's your definition of bussy galore?
So bussy is a reference to me, as I've said. Bussy galore is a wordplay of the character from the James Bond novel Goldfinger, Pussy Galore.
And you've said that it's basically you living your best life. But it's a lot more explicit than that, isn't it?
No, it's just plainly said, it's just about me. It's a reference to myself. And
So when we're thinking narcissist, it's all about me, actually. It's just about me. And Bussy is your nickname. Well then, Mr. Doyle, I have to ask, and I'm sure many other New Zealanders ask, why is your nickname Boy's Pussy? What on earth in your behaviours and your character would lead that to be an acceptable nickname for you? And I again say nothing manipulated here. He talks about bad faith actors. That is kind of the left, and particularly the radical left's catch cry for anyone who disagrees with them. A bad faith actor. What is bad faith about someone taking a publicly available image and words produced by you on a social media forum and republishing them and scrutinising them, given that you are now a member of Parliament?
No one else.
But in your opening statements, you have said it's simply me living my best life. It is more explicit than that. It is a play on the words boy and pussy. Do you accept that?
In this context, that is not what it is. In this context, it is a reference to me and a nickname that my friends and people who know me understand as a reference to me.
Can you see why people might take issue with that you're picking and choosing what definition you feel is appropriate?
When an image and words are taken out of a context and manipulated to seem a certain way, I can see how people might get that impression.
Can we just raise some of the other concerns that have been raised online with you, just so you can address them outright? There have been some concerns raised about the use of the spiral emoji. Are you aware of the connotations of that online and its links to child sexual harm?
In Aotearoa, we are surrounded by Māori motifs such as the koru. I don't know a single person who would look at a spiral in this country earnestly and think anything as malicious as that. I was not aware of that conspiracy, and I would only use that, as most people would, as a reference to a koru in Aotearoa.
Now this, I've got to say, at this stage my BS meter is going ding, 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 ding. Search blue cyclone or blue swirl online. The FBI have it flagged as a symbol used for pedophiles online to indicate that they are pedophiles to each other or are interested in certain deviant practices. Go and ask AI. And I don't know where a blue koru, I do not know where this comes from. This does not ring true. And, you know, he says he was politically naive to keep all this stuff up. Look, there's a reason he chose that symbol. And I simply, I'm going to say it, I don't believe his contextual redefinition of what the blue cyclone or the blue swirl is. So this is particularly one of the weirder things about what he's claiming about his social media posts. I again say he is accusing people of taking things out of context and manipulating them. He has still provided no proof that that has been done.
There was another post that you made.
You mentioned at the beginning that the party advised you to remove the social media account. Looking back, do you regret not doing that?
I could never have predicted or foreseen the level of violent hate that I have been receiving because of the manipulation and taking of images of my child. We could not have prepared for that.
Well,
and we could never.
And here it is again, the manipulation of the images, and he has no proof of it. He took the images of his child and he put them online in a place where people could republish them, not manipulate them. This is all down to you, Benjamin Doyle. And you were advised to remove all this stuff off the internet, and you chose not to. So once again saying these terrible people who have manipulated these things. Also, he says, the violence against me. There has been no violence being a physical attack against you. I have no doubt that awful things have been said to you on social media. Welcome to the year 2025. But there has been no violence against you, Benjamin Doyle, unless you've had your feelings hurt. I don't condone anyone who's threatened physical violence or made death threats against Benjamin Doyle, but I do note only one matter, as far as we know, has been referred to the police, or police are only taking action on one matter referred to them by parliamentary security. But having decided that he's going to go through these images have been somehow stolen or manipulated, having chosen that lie at the very outset, he is now set on this course.
They did dictate, they told you to delete the account, so do you regret not doing that?
The Green Party said that I would face homophobia, I would face hate. We didn't predict that I would face this level.
There's nothing homophobic about what's gone on here. It is your posts posted on essentially a public forum or on social media that have caused this issue. And you may have faced hate. My understanding is people were hating on you because of your position on puberty blockers before all this blew up, before Mr. Peters' comments. But there's been nothing homophobic or transphobic about what we have seen. But, of course, this whole press conference, it seems to me, this whole media interaction is about Mr. Doyle massaging the narrative.
Put it in a book before she turned up, but still got the backlash from the larger, wider community who do not have access to the Hapori Takatapui, and that is probably the basic issue. They don't have access. They don't have access to the kupu, to the reo of Takatapui, Te Ao Takatapui, and that's what you're having to do now, is to explain to the wider majority of people what it is to be Takatapui.
The rainbow community, as you've said, is a really diverse community. I don't represent every single rainbow person. We are a rich and diverse group of people, much like any community. And there are going to be differences and variations in our language, our identities, our beliefs. This is an example of that. I am just a member of a group of people in the rainbow community.
When you were advised...
That's right, we're not a monolith.
Why didn't you take the Greens' advice and pull that page down?
I came to Parliament with the backing of people to be my authentic self and to represent the communities that I come from. I have been supported the whole way through this by people who know me and care for me, to not relent on being unapologetic on the things that matter. I am not going to be disappeared from public life, and queer people should not have to be disappeared.
Who exactly was it that advised you to take it down?
Pardon me?
Who exactly was it that advised you to take it down?
I was advised when I was a candidate, which was a fair while back, and I actually can't recall. It was leadership.
Yeah, okay, so now it's all getting a little bit confusing for him. Someone has said, what is taki tapui? I presume it's the Maori word for trans. And the person asking that question, Claudette, is the press gallery reporter for Wātea News. So she's almost entirely taxpayer funded, and she tends to go to press conferences as an activist and talking about we and our people. So, lovely woman, Claudette, always says hello to me, but she's not really a journalist. She's a Maori activist working for Wātea News, entirely funded pretty well by the taxpayer one way or another, and has a terrible habit of just launching into kind of political speeches when she's asking questions of the Prime Minister. And look, the other thing, what's he done here? Well, you know, when Chloe Swarbrick and Marama Davidson came out and said this is all because gay people make jokes about children's sexuality, which outraged the gay community. The other thing Benjamin Doyle's now done is also thrown Maori under the bus by saying their blue swirl, which is an international byline for paedophiles, is actually that was a Maori symbol. And that, to me, he's now, because he can't admit he's wrong, he's compounding all sorts of problems created by this issue. By the way, if you want to ring in and tell me what you think of what you've seen so far, feel free to. I'm also going to note that as far as we are aware, there were no investigations into the activities of Mr. Doyle. No one has specifically accused him of any crime. And he is at present a law-abiding member of the New Zealand Society. I want to make that totally clear. We are not aware of any investigation into his activities. Mr. Winston Peters says there has been, and Mr. Peters is saying he stands by this. He stands by that belief.
From the Green Party.
And how did that conversation go?
The advice I received was that coming into public office, I would probably face homophobia and queerphobia based on my identity, and that for the interests of my well-being, I might like to take it down to avoid nasty comments. They trusted me to have the authority and autonomy over that decision myself.
Have you taken that?
You say you refused to be disappeared by hate. Did you ever consider stepping down over the last week or so?
No.
Why not? Can you just explain that decision?
Yeah. Because this is really important. This fight that we're having right now. If I were to step down and to move away from this space, our community would lose a voice, and we don't have much representation in here, especially non-binary takatapu people. I have the backing of my community, I have the backing of my whānau, their confidence. People have reached out and supported me and said that they will wrap around me, and I am here to fight for the things that matter to us and our community.
All right, that's interesting. I never considered resigning. Don't forget, we put that together with I have done nothing wrong. I've never considered resigning. This place is hostile to us, even though he's standing in a room that has for 6 years been particularly dedicated to rainbow people. But he says, I'm standing for a different community, the trans community, the most radical community I can find. So I just think that is very interesting. Once again, the narcissistic thing, I've done nothing wrong. I never even thought about resigning. Quite remarkable.
Despite your explanation and your opening remarks, there'll still be some people who are confused why you refer to yourself using that term. How would you unpack that for them? How would you reassure them that there's nothing more nefarious to it?
Sure. Many cultures and people and communities and friends use nicknames or kind of tongue-in-cheek references to each other in closed group environments and circles of friends. In my community, which was quite large on that Instagram account of friends who understood for a long time that it's kind of a nickname or persona for me, much like, I don't know, a character like Fred Dagg, who is kind of a obscure pop culture reference. The name is kind of tongue-in-cheek. It's simply put, just a persona or identity and part of my identity and kind of online presence.
Well, just stop that there. So that's quite remarkable. So we've thrown the rainbow community under the bus. We've thrown the Maori community under the bus with the blue swirl thing. And now we are taking in vain one of New Zealand's great cultural icons, certainly for people of my generation, Fred Dagg. So calling yourself a boy's pussy as your alternate online ego is somehow equivalent to being the most brilliant satirical comedian of his generation, of his age, the late Fred Dagg. This guy, so what we're hearing now is Benjamin Doyle will pull almost and play almost any card to ensure that he's not wrong and he's the victim and it's everyone else's fault. So far, as I said, whose coattails has he ridden on? The real rainbow community, the real Māori community, and now Fred Dagg. I mean, that's almost sacrilegious to someone like me.
Police involvement required, how much of it was, it seemed close to realised,
Sorry, there are multiple parts to that question. Could you please
ask? The severity of the threats, how much was sort of potentially realised threats and required police involvement?
Sure. So I've been following a process guided by Parliamentary Security and the DPS around referring all threats through that specific pathway, and it's not my position to determine whether or not they're valid. That has been followed by that process, and I've entrusted them to follow it correctly.
Have you had to engage with police at all? Have police been involved?
I have been engaging with Parliamentary Security specifically, and then they have been the conduit for the correct process.
You've described the situation. You've described the level of hate that you've received as poisonous, transphobic hate. Do you believe that is also the case when it comes to Winston Peters' criticism?
I would rather have a conversation kanohi ki te kanohi with the Right Honourable Deputy Prime Minister, Mr Peters, because I believe that we can't resolve anything through bickering or in the media. I would rather have a restorative conversation with him directly.
What did you make of his comments?
Pardon me?
What did you make of his comments?
To be honest, I've been very overwhelmed with many pieces of information, comments about me, so I haven't taken a great amount of time to reflect specifically on his
How
words.
important is it that you continue to use those words, living your true, authentic self, and allow rangatahi takatahui to continuously hear those words, given that we've got such a high level of suicide amongst our rangatahi? How important is it for them to hear that?
Identity is essential for all people's well-being. The rainbow community have had our identities, especially Takatapu people, have had our identities stripped of us. It is so important that I show up authentically as myself to represent our communities so they can see themselves in this place.
But you don't show up authentically as yourself, do you, Benjamin? You show up saying, I'm they, them, but you're not. You're clearly a he or him. That's your authentic self. You say you're not a man, but you clearly are a man. And I find this authentic argument very strange. You say you're disabled, but we don't know what your disability is, apart from you get a bit depressed like we all do. Authentic is just not a word. You wear, some sort of Marxist beret. I don't know what you're playing at, Benjamin, but authentic is not a word I can apply to you. Are you authentically Bussy Galore, or are you authentically Benjamin Doyle? And I really find this thing that I am... He's now saying, he said earlier, I don't represent the rainbow community, but now he says he does. I get more and more confused as this guy keeps talking.
It's a very hostile environment, and yes, the realities of that are obviously becoming very clearly to me very dangerous, but that doesn't mean I should stop in this relentless pursuit to present an authentic version of it.
Politically naive, do you believe that you used good political judgment throughout this in regards to your language on social media?
So all of those references on social media were before I was a Member of Parliament, so of course I didn't have any...
You were a political candidate though.
And that's when I received that advice, when I was a candidate.
And you stand by your political judgment throughout that?
Yes, because I could never have predicted that people would end up with conspiracies threatening to kill me and the safety of my child online.
To be completely clear though, with hindsight, you wouldn't do anything differently.
It's really important to make it clear that queer people should not have to erase their identities and minimise ourselves for the comfort of others.
All right, erase your identity. No one's erasing your identity, Benjamin. We're just trying to figure out what the hell it is. The only erasing that's been done is by you taking down your social media posts. And I add, he still cannot admit I made a mistake by not deleting that account, which is the classic narcissist. You can kind of admit and work your way around anything, but when it comes to admitting fault, it's a kind of psychological impossibility for them. And that, I think, is what we are absolutely hearing here. So, as I said, I'm still searching for the authentic Benjamin Doyle. It's getting hard.
We deserve to exist in this world authentically as ourselves without risk of being manipulated and misportrayed and weaponised against each other.
Then
Are you or the party aware of the agency of the businessman behind the X profile that was a lot of this originated from? Tui Teka, I believe?
I only was made aware of that article as I came down, so I don't actually have any comment on it.
Have you considered any legal action, be it harmful digital communications or defamation against the person behind the account or anyone else?
I'm aware there are multiple avenues that we can take to address this situation. I haven't made any decisions about that, and I don't want to comment on it.
Just to clarify about the
One of the big issues that people took wasn't just the language that you use and the way that you express yourself. It's actually that you did that alongside photographs of your child. Do you accept it was wrong to post photographs of your child alongside sexual slang like that?
The words I used in my private account historically were not sexual words. They were nicknames and references.
And here we go again. No, I can't admit I made a mistake. Well, other people are going to decide that, not you, Benjamin Doyle. And as I said, I'm seeing the texts that are rolling in this morning despite our technical difficulties. Thank you for sticking with us as Josh moves heaven and earth to figure them out. But this isn't for you to decide, and no one tried to cancel you. No one manipulated you, Benjamin Doyle. No one is trying to erase the rainbow community. But there is something else and something serious going on here that New Zealanders are very interested in.
References to myself. The images of my child.
About Bussy, and the caption was Bussy galore.
Which is a reference to a Bond movie.
You also had a caption there saying swipe left to see an eggplant.
And that image is a picture of Crocs, my feet, and then a coffee. So I think they've been taken out of context and manipulated to fit this rhetoric to attack the queer community and portray us as unsafe.
Was the account always private?
Bussy does have a sexual connotation to a lot of people.
I recognise that a lot of people won't know the word bussy, and so they'll be hearing about it for the first time now, and that some people don't use or like it or have a particular definition. Every time I have ever used that term, it has been a reference to me and my nickname.
And it's never been sexual in any way or form.
It's a nickname or like a drag persona. It's a caricature of myself.
And you've never meant it in a sexual way?
I've always meant it as a reference to myself.
How do you see how many threats you've faced and whether that has increased over time or how that's changed?
No, I can't. I can tell you that I've received hundreds of threats, but I can't give you specific details.
How did you get the nickname?
In community with friends through kind of hanging out and laughing and joking and being interested in pop culture.
Will you have taken down that page?
Pardon me?
Will you or have you taken down your page?
I have, except for one post when I became a Member of Parliament to say...
And I think, is that it? That was it? That's largely it.
Sorry, can we just...
Delete it.
Last question.
Why not? Focus on the page. Why
No.
not delete the page? Delete the page.
Because it's not in use currently, and I'm not prepared to eradicate myself or minimise myself for the comfort or narrative of homophobic people trying to attack the queer community.
Can we just get something? Can we just get something on record? Have you been contacted by any government agency about the safety of your child?
He's not going to eradicate himself. He's going to remove at least 50 posts from a publicly available account. He's going to throw the traditional gay community under the bus. He's going to throw the Maori culture under the bus. And he's going to say that the word boy's pussy is something he calls himself. It's like a drag queen persona, but it has no sexual connotation. So at the end of about 20 minutes yesterday, the press conference's initial statements and the questions, what are we left with? We're left with a man who says, I've done nothing wrong. That having a nickname of boy's pussy is not sexual. And while no one has been proven to have misquoted his social media, no evidence has been provided that the photographs that he posted on a publicly accessible social media site have been in any way manipulated. He still insists that this is homophobia and transphobia and that he has done nothing wrong, despite being told by the Green Party to hide this persona prior to entering Parliament. I can have my opinion on this, but in the end of the day, in the real world of politics for the Green Party, it is the opinion of people who might vote for the Greens that is what matters here. And I guess the opinion of the general public. Mr. Doyle, or Boy's Pussy, as he likes to call himself, isn't going to get a meeting with Winston Peters. I don't get the feeling that Mr. Peters is going to change his views. So I do not know what happens next. I thought we might have expected a resignation yesterday. We did not get one. Benjamin Doyle stands his ground, and the political consequences, I guess, of that are going to play out in the days of weeks and weeks under us ahead. Someone says, Bussy, throwing people under the bus, talk about double speak. Sean, just because that B name is a reference to himself doesn't deny or exclude the fact of what it means. It does have sex connotations, yes, and despite him saying it doesn't, it clearly does. Sean, Senior Greens went there because it was question time in the debating chamber. No, it wasn't. It was 3:30. Question time was over. I bet Golriz and Darlene are loving this. Well, I'll say this or maybe Darlene Tana held on. Golriz Garriman resigned, and I'll give her that. She just resigned. And that is a good thing. I suppose we could look at another party. We could say, Andrew Bailey resigned for touching someone on the arm, right? I don't think Hamish Campbell should resign for having a prayer meeting in his home. But there we go. Thank God we had that loaded into the system and I could unpack it for people. And in some ways, I'm grateful that we could just keep on going through it during the course of the morning. I know that I'm going to be labelled by some online, including people like Brom and Bradbury. They're going to say that what I did this morning was whip people up against Benjamin Doyle and operate a campaign of hate. I didn't. I tried in the fullest way possible to give you an analysis and give you a chance to listen to what Benjamin Doyle said yesterday. And I gave you some context. It might not be the context that Mr. Doyle presented, but it's the context of living in a society that does have, and gosh, I sound like an old stick in the mud, does have some standards that apply to all people. And I think the idea of creating the impression that the rainbow community, whatever that is, that Mr. Doyle represents the rainbow community, which he doesn't, and that community has a slacker or worse attitude or more liberal attitude to the sexualisation of children than mainstream New Zealand, I think that's a terrible lie that he's perpetrated. And I think it's insulting to all gay people of good character in New Zealand. I think he's perpetuated hatred through his attitude. He is a trans radical. The people around him at that press conference were trans radicals. And the issues that he has raised through his behaviours, not through anyone else, not through manipulation, not through a misrepresentation of something he did in a social media forum. He posted the pictures of his kid. He wrote the words. No one manipulated anything. I think there is some transphobia here. I think there is some homophobia here. I wouldn't deny that. It's not coming from me. It was about protecting kids, and it still is about protecting kids, and it's about standards in our society and standards in our parliament, in my humble opinion.